Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the newly released Pathfinder 2nd Edition Claws of the Tyrant adventure. This is a standalone adventure which has a few different level ranges. We'll talk about that here in a moment. This is something that I'm really looking forward to. Before I transitioned from Pathfinder 2nd Edition into the Starfinder 2nd Edition playtest, my campaign was going to revolve around sort of an earlier version of Galarian than the standard setting, and they're going to revolve around the re-release of Tarbathon, the Whispering Tyrant. So this adventure actually involves some of his machinations. So I'm, gonna weave this back into my Starfinder campaign when the time comes, because Starfinder 2nd Edition and Pathfinder 2nd Edition are going to be fully compatible with one another. So it'll just be a matter of altering like some equipment and stuff like that. Though I'm not going to have to do it for everything, and we'll explain that in a moment. Before I get further into it, though, I just want to state for the record, for transparency's sake, that this was sent to me by Paizo for the purposes of doing a review video, so I do want to thank them for sending this my way. However, as is always the case with these types of videos, they are not scripting or pre-screening the video, and the opinions that I express are 100% completely and totally my own. First of all, I'm really digging this cover art here with the undead swarm and sort of the couple of heroes there trying to fight them off. I think that the cover art on this is really awesome. On the back here, we also have some other interesting things involving our iconic characters, including Fumbus, the goblin alchemist, leaping away from an explosion that was maybe a little too close to another party member here. This retails for $44.99, and like I said, you'd be able to use this quite a bit throughout your campaign. This can be designed to be played as like one continuous, like ongoing story. However, what this actually is a collection of shorter adventures. So 3 short adventures themselves, which can be used to create a larger story. So the first adventure is called The Graveland Survivors, and that is going to be for a group of first level characters. Then the second adventure is Ashes for Ozum, which I believe you start at, I think you start at 7th or 8th. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. And then there's Of Blood and Faith, which is for 18th level characters. So I'm not going to spoil too much about the history here or the storyline. But if we take a look at the first adventure here, so the players can get up to level 3 when they're going through this. This first chapter, this first adventure, involves the characters as survivors of the destruction of Lastwall, like the release of the Whispering Tyrant, and being part of a group that sought refuge in like the catacombs below this city that they were formerly in. And they've been basically hiding in these catacombs for several years and living purely off of the create food and water spell cast by one of the priests that was with the refugees. The player characters have to lead these individuals out of the catacombs and try to make it to a nearby city while trying to keep as many of these NPCs alive while taking on various undead threats. This is just a really, really interesting sort of, beginning to a campaign here. Again, I don't want to spoil too much. One of the player characters will be selected as the priest's sort of like second in command or second in line of succession, or however you want to phrase it there, and they will be entrusted with a mysterious key which will play a role later on in the overarching story here. So again, I don't want to spoil too much. I don't want to give away too many things here. So we're just going to go ahead for the next adventure here, which is for 7th level characters. So they go from 7th to 8th by the end of this section. And this is really cool because you actually get a chance to play evil characters. So as you're sort of telling the story, as the story is unfolding, if you are playing them as separate chapters or separate installments in the storyline, then you can actually have evil characters sort of taking the role here, which is only the second time that Pathfinder Second Edition I think has really clearly supported playing these evil or at least very like morally gray characters since the Pray for Death adventure book that came out. So they are trying to hunt down an artifact, and again, I'm not going to go too much into the story there. And then the final chapter of the adventure, the final installment, is for a group of 18th level characters that actually reach 20th by the end of the book here. So with the third chapter, the events that are taking place have the chance to really undermine and unravel the very fabric of reality. So our high level characters essentially have a chance to stop a near apocalyptic event from taking place, which involves elements from the first two chapters here. So you can run this, like I said, as one continuous campaign. Maybe have other adventure paths, sort of thrown in the mix in between the level ranges of the adventure. But I plan on introducing this to my current Starfinder campaign, as I said, and I'm going to do something that I talked about years ago in a video. And when they sort of get closer to, they're going to be level 10, I think, by the time that they're done the adventure that I currently have planned for them. So my plan is when they get to a slightly higher level, I'm going to start introducing elements of this story to them. So in the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to create a group of pre-generated characters, and they're going to play through the historical event instead of just like it being their characters throughout the entire campaign. So for the escape from the catacombs and sort of like the survival horror-esque opening chapter for characters levels 1 through 3, I'm going to actually give them some level 1 characters that they are going to play throughout that chapter. And then once that's done, they'll know the events that have taken place with them. And then we're going to just do some other stuff after that and let them play, some other scenarios or adventures that I'll have planned out to get them, maybe a couple levels higher. Then they're going to come across the second installment where they actually find what had happened with these evil characters, either through like one of their journals or some of their like fables or whatever. And they're going to play through another set of pre-generated evil characters, going through and finding this sort of sacred relic. And then eventually they're going to become high enough level to take on the final chapter themselves. And that's sort of the way that I plan on introducing this into my campaign. But this was a book, like as soon as I saw the title, I knew that I wanted to run this because I want to reintegrate that Whispering Tyrant storyline back into my campaign, because like I said, that was originally my plan. When I began running Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I went through Crown of the Kobold King, which one of the key events there is actually one of Tarbathon's seals being destroyed, and it unleashes this necrotic energy that raises these undead creatures, and the players actually have a fragment of that shard with them. And then when they went through this sort of temporal vortex and found themselves on Absalom Station, they still have that fragment with them. So I'm really looking forward to reintegrating that storyline back into the campaign as time goes on. And I think this is just a really cool concept. And I really like the idea of having these like wide level ranges, because it gives you a chance to play low level, kind of mid level, and then you get to be those high level, heroic world saving or universe saving characters. And I think that they did a really cool job with this. The opening chapter, like I said, it labels itself as more of a survival horror. The characters don't have a ton of resources available to them. So, as part of their attempts to flee and escape this, area that they find themselves in, as it becomes no longer safe for them, they're going to have to scavenge for extra supplies, even though that puts everybody at risk, because they're doing this in this sort of like undead infested location. And it uses the victory point system a couple of times. And with the opening chapter, the victory point system actually has you essentially at like the highest point, and instead of like trying to gain points, you're essentially trying not to lose them. So it's a very interesting, concept as they're going through and trying to scavenge these supplies together while keeping all of these other NPCs alive. And trying not to lose these victory points that have them, being basically targeted by more and more threatening creatures. I think that's really cool. The ability to play evil characters, again, I think is always going to be fun. And it's a shorter section for sure, because you only gain like a single level through it. But it's a lot of fun. You get a bit more sort of like dungeon crawly type of things, but the characters get a chance to flex those evil muscles. And then the final installment, like I said, the repercussions for that are really like universe impacting, where like the fabric of reality can be undone and rewoven in a very, very damaging way. So I think this is a really well written, series of adventures. I love the fact that they're spread out enough that you can really use that like historical research angle that I've always wanted to run, where the characters are researching something, and instead of just telling them like in bullet form or things like that, to actually let them play and live that history, I think is going to be a lot of fun to do. And it'll be a little bit of a change of pace. The characters, like I said, they're about 10th level, or they're going to be 10th level by the time they finish this scenario that I have outlined for them. So to go back and get to play these lower level characters, but sort of tell the story that they discover in bits and pieces before they're finally drawn into it themselves at the end, I think is going to be a lot of fun. And I hope they do more books like this in the future, where you can either design an entire campaign around these key moments, or where you can just use these key moments to tell side stories where the players get to try different characters out and go through that sort of process. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is a really unique and interesting adventure structure. And I'm just, the subject matter alone really appeals to me because it involves elements of what I originally wanted my Pathfinder second edition campaign to be. So for, the ability to get several, sessions, or, I run bi-weekly for my home game. So the ability to get probably, 2 or 3 months of really solid gameplay out of just the first couple of scenarios alone, I think is going to be a great time. And the ending, I think, will be a satisfactory one for the ability to sort of like bring a campaign to a close, or at least very closely to a close. I might involve the Whispering Tyrant directly as sort of an aftermath, depending on how things go at the end, or it could be the beginning of a brand new campaign as well, depending on if the characters are successful or if they fail in their final task. But yeah, Claws of the Tyrant, really interesting concept. Again, I don't want to spoil the actual story elements or anything here, but it has a really rich background. And again, this really cosmic threat at the end of the campaign, with some ability to blow off steam as some evil characters partway through the booklet itself. And yeah, just really something that's just right up my alley. I'm really interested in this, and if you guys are looking for sort of a adventure that you could build an entire campaign around, or again, if you just want to go through the story beats with like the research and living the research instead of just being told what events took place in the past, then I think this is going to be a really cool option for you. And again, I hope this is the first of several of these style of books, because I'm really, really impressed and really, really enthralled with this one. Anyway, thank you once again to Paizo for sending this my way. Thank you to every one of you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. If you want me to go into a more spoiler-heavy review, I am willing to do that, but I want to give this book a month or two to breathe before I get into that. So if you are interested, let me know. Or instead of doing like the spoiler heavy review all at once, maybe what I could do is do recaps of my group's playthroughs with those pre-generated characters. Anyway, thank you all so very much for your time. I appreciate that, as well as your feedback. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care.